Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beginnings, the show that asks, where do creative people come from? My name is Andy. I'm the host of the show and a writer and performer based in Los Angeles, California. What's going on, everyone? So, what happened this week? Let's see here, just for posterity. Let's see here. Trump took over Washington, D.C. So that seems like one of those things in a history book where when they're tracing back whatever fucked up thing is going to happen in the next couple years here, that seems like one of those steps. It seems like there's one of those steps every week. But, yeah, do you have a red line for leaving? I think for Naomi and I, it's if they do something about loving v. Virginia, they repeal that. I mean, I don't know if we should wait for that one. But I think Clarence Thomas is real excited, despite the fact that he is in an interracial marriage. I think he's champing at the bit to make his marriage to Ginny illegal for some reason. Guy's a real sicko. A lot of real sickos in charge. But do you know what the antidote for that is? Well, I mean, the true antidote is something I can't say on published media. But a mental antidote to the awfulness outside. Why, that's today's episode with Laura Ballance. If you don't know who Laura is, I'm going to read you her bio right now. Originally from Charlotte, North Carolina, musician, Laura Ballance moved around a fair amount as a child, eventually ending up in Chapel Hill for college, where she met Mac McCaughan, who convinced her to be in a band. That band is Superchunk, who over the last 36 years have released 12 albums, numerous EPs, compilations, and live albums, and created one of the most lasting legacies in indie rock. In addition to Superchunk, Laura co-founded, along with Mac, Merge Records, one of the most well-known and well-liked indie labels. Speaking of both Merge and Superchunk, their latest album, the very appropriate for 2025 named Songs in the Key of Yikes. I have been saying yikes more often lately. Songs in the Key of Yikes is out next Friday, and I cannot wait. Superchunk is absolutely one of my favorite bands, and I talked to, very early on in the show, I think like one of the first episodes, we talked to John Worster, and then a couple years ago in the beginning of the pandemic, Mac was on. When I first started to do the show by Zoom, I was like, well, now I can open up the show to whomever I want to talk to. Mac was one of the first people I contacted. And then a couple months ago, I was listening to this other podcast called Life of the Record, which is a kind of documentary series where every episode they pick an album and then talk to the people who made it, kind of go through the process. And so they had everyone from Superchunk on to talk about Foolish. And Laura was so charming, and she had talked about how in the episode, how in the 90s, around the time when they were recording Foolish, she had mentioned that she had been doing therapy. And both those things kind of like pinged off my antenna. Because, hey, if you're going to talk on this show, if you've been through therapy, then we can really get into it. And, buddy, do we get into it? We talk about all the stuff from her childhood and her parents. We talk about some supernatural things that happened when she was a kid, some real life, serious stuff that happened that altered her life. We even get into, I don't do this on most episodes with my guests, even though I always have people on whose stuff I like. I never really talk about the art they make now. I figure they've answered millions of those kinds of questions that you don't have to have me asking, what does this lyric mean or whatever fucking thing. But because Superchunk is one of my favorite bands, we did end up a little bit, because this is my theory on Superchunk, at least my artistic theory on why they have endured as a band for so long, is that each one of the members has their own kind of particular style that meshes well with each other, but is just off enough that you can pick it out that it's its own particular thing. So every song is held together, but also each part of it has an angle to it, if that makes sense. I think the best art is full of contradictions that are held together by a unifying theme. I don't think it's a hard and fast rule, but that's just something that I've noticed in a lot of the art that I like a lot, or a lot of the art that affects me deeply. So we do talk a little bit about her personal style, music-wise, and a ton of other stuff. I hope you like this episode. It was just an absolute joy to talk to Laura. Coming up on the show, Dan Riggins from Friendship, wonderful folk singer Peter Salette, who is also part of the comedy community, and that he wrote the music for Wet Hot American Summer and has done a lot of stuff with The State and Stella. And I just talked to Nick Dragata, who's one of my favorite comics artists, and that was a brilliant talk. It was so fun talking to him. So stay tuned for those, but for now, let's talk to Laura. Where did you grow up? North Carolina, right?
Mostly in North Carolina. I was born in Charlotte. Then when I was 4, maybe, we moved to Goldsboro, North Carolina, which is really nowhere. It's I shouldn't say that, it's not fair. But it's a very small town, especially it was back then in 1972. And it was we lived in this house that was surrounded by tobacco fields across the street and cornfields behind our house. It was very rural. Mm-hmm. And then we lived there for a while. And then we moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, still in North Carolina. And then we moved to Arkansas.
Interesting.
Little Rock, Arkansas. Because my dad worked for Sears in the automotive department and was kind of a ass kicker. And so they started moving him around to shape up different departments, in different stores in different cities. If a store needed help, they would move him there and we'd all go. And it would usually take a few years. But we moved to Arkansas, and that was bad. Some bad stuff happened in Arkansas that I think really changed my life. And then we moved to Atlanta, and I lived in Atlanta for 8 years, from when I was 8 years old until I was about to enter my senior year of high school. So Atlanta was a really formative place for me. It's that part of your childhood you remember the most,
Yeah.
And then I moved to Raleigh with my mom for my senior year of high school, and then ended up going to UNC in Chapel Hill.
That's a lot of moving around.
Yes, I moved a lot. And so I think that weirdly has a lot to do with me sort of turning inward and having this kind of, I had my brother and my sister to hang out with, but I didn't have steady friends at all. And so I think I got really good at entertaining myself and being really self-reliant. And a lot of that was making art or, drawing, reading, watching TV. There was a lot of watching TV back in the day also.
Sure.
But I think one of the first things that I remembered doing, I was trying to think about early creative memories. And one of the first things I remember that felt like a creative thing to me was when we were living in Goldsboro, and I was really little, and my mom was teaching me how to sew, just with it, by hand with a needle and thread. And I was sewing some doll clothes.
Okay.
And I remember sitting in our little den, and I was sewing on my leg, and I ended up accidentally sewing the clothes to my pants.
Oh, that's not where I thought you were going. I thought you were going to sew it into your flesh or something like that.
No, you would feel that.
Sure. Well, I didn't think. By the way, I didn't think you meant a full stitch. Is that what it?
No, but yeah, they were when I was done. I had to undo it because it was attached to my pants.
Yeah, that was me in home ec. I was constantly in home ec if I was making stuff. I made jams. Not that I wore them, but I made jams, and I made.
You mean like those shorts?
Yeah, long shorts. Because I was, I don't know why, but in the 80s, surf stuff was popular.
Oh, yes. It
Again,
was.
I'm from Pennsylvania, so I don't know why, like, the Ocean Pacific was a brand. I remember having Ocean Pacific shirts and
Oh, yes.
stuff. So
And
jams
shirts.
were cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So I made them. But I was constantly sewing the thing together. And then I had to undo the stitches.
Yeah. Oh, that's part of sewing. That's always part of sewing. You always screw up and have to undo it over and over again until you learn how to keep it all straight.
Yes, but here's a question for you. Are you someone who is okay being like, oh, okay, well, this is not, I messed up. I can just go back and redo it, or this isn't the exact thing I want, so I'm going to keep shaping it. Or are you someone like when I was a kid where I was like, if this isn't done on the first try, why am I doing it?
Mm-hmm. No, I have abandoned a lot of projects, if that's what you mean. Like where I'll sew something and I'll be like, this did not turn out like I wanted at all. And then it goes in the drawer or, somewhere, and I just try to ignore it. And then like maybe years later, I might try to fix it or like alter it so that it'll work. But like, yeah, I get fed up with that kind of thing, with sewing projects.
With everything? With everything, though? Or just sewing projects?
Sewing, for some reason, it seems especially that way. But because sewing, there's a certain way that you know kind of that it should fit or whatever, right? Whereas if you're making a painting, it's different. Like if I'm drawing or painting something, I don't really have a total vision of how it should come out in the end. So there's not a right or wrong so much as it feels like there is with sewing. I mean, there's some interpretation with sewing.
Yeah. When you're painting, though, do you go in with something in mind, or do you start with like just the physical act of like, I'm going to move my hand and I'm going to see what happens, and then I'll go from there?
Usually I have some kind of idea, like a concept, but not a total vision, But when I was a kid, I just wanted to draw horses all the time. I just drew horses over and over and over. And they were always terrible looking. but I was also thinking about how I had an aunt. Her name was Gretchen Bender, and she actually became a well-known, not super well-known, but she was part of the New York art scene in the 80s and 90s. But she was married to my uncle, and she was really encouraging of us drawing and making art. And she was a big inspiration, I think, and a big one, to just sort of open the door to like, here's a piece of paper and a pencil, just do anything. She was wonderful. Another thing is my grandmother. This is different. It's not really like directly related to art, I guess. But my grandmother on my mom's side used to tell stories all the time. And she was a really good storyteller, though she would tell the same damn ones over and over again. So she would get going and you'd be like, oh boy, here we go. Here goes 20 minutes or, who knows how long. But she was really good at like telling a story and drawing it out and including all these details and stuff that like made it really interesting. And I think about that all the time and how bad I am at that. Like, I wish I took after her in that way. My inclination is always, if I'm trying to tell someone something, I try to tell it in the fewest number of words possible, which is not a good way to tell stories at all.
No.
You're not telling a story, you're just relaying an incident.
Well, okay. I'm going to give you this, though. There is a certain kind of person, and I won't name the people in my life because I don't want to hurt their feelings, but there are people in my life who are terrible at telling stories because they put in so much detail and so much extraneous detail that you're missing the through line. So I do appreciate your kind of like laconic, way of doing it that you're saying, where you're just like,
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you the information so we get to it. So
Yeah.
I would rather have your way, your methodology, than someone who's just like adding in details that don't matter.
Yeah. I wish I had recorded her though. I don't know. You might appreciate them more and their storytelling once they're gone.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about that. I mean, now that I'm getting older, where I'm just
Yeah.
like, do I do like those kind of like archival projects with all the older people in my life?
It's a good thing, I think.
It is. Let me ask you a question, though. The kinds of questions that I would ask you, guests of mine, I do not know if I want to ask my parents. I don't know. I don't have the kind of relationship with my parents. It's more of like they are the parents and I am the child. And we can talk about like, just like everyday things. But like the minute we start to get into like those deeper stuff, I kind of like stop up and they kind of stop up. Are you able to, or were you able to have those kind of conversations with like your older relatives?
Well, I mean, I can't really say with my grandparents because I was young enough when they died that I hadn't thought about it. But
Yeah.
my parents are old now and are, getting pretty old, and death, it does not seem that far away. And I do feel like I can have conversations with them about real stuff and talk to them about questions I've had even for, my whole life, that I'm like, well, what happened? Like, why did you and dad get divorced or whatever? And like, they'll actually tell me now where they wouldn't have when I was 15. I don't know. You can find it's worth trying because you can find out some things that you would be surprised about, but maybe you don't want to.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That's the thing where I'm just like, it's the thing I've been struggling with in therapy for a decade, which is, do I want to cross that bridge, or do I want to just have the kind of nice, pleasant relationship we have now? Or do I want to know things? Capital N, capital T.
I want to know. I want to know. And like, honestly, the way I live my life is very like, I like being direct. I'm direct to a fault. And I have a hard time with, sort of bullshit conversations, I have a hard time. I don't want to talk about the weather, you know, like, or whatever. I want to know about you, I want to know why you are like you are, or whatever. And I associate that with, so the bad thing that happened in Arkansas, it's like I have family trauma where I thought we were all going to die. This guy told us he was going to kill us, and I believed it because I was 8 years old. And so I feel like that changed me because I was like, oh, I'm going to die, and I accepted it. And then I lived, and I was pretty messed up for a while, but also it really made me approach life a different way. Like, approach life in more of a way of like, I could die anytime. Any of us could die anytime. And I really want to participate in a real way with people and not on a sort of surface level.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask, like, can you actually look, like, see how you change as a person through this kind of traumatic event? Like, do you look back and be like, yes, this is how I was, besides like this kind, you telling me about like, well, now I know that the ephemerality of life is like right there in front of me, and I don't like, I'm not going to sit here and like bullshit with someone about like, did you watch Love Island last night or whatever, right? But like in terms of your existential path, I guess I'm curious, did that change what you wanted out of life outside of just the deepening of relationships or the deepening of conversation?
It's hard to say because, at that age, before then, I was young enough. I don't feel like I didn't know what I wanted out of life. I didn't really think that much about it. I knew that, I really loved animals. I really liked drawing. I really liked horses. I wanted to be around horses. But I mean, that those things didn't really change afterwards. I just got more shy even than I was before.
Yeah.
But I kind of like, I think my whole philosophy of life was sort of somehow, I must have been impacted by it. Like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it right. I'm not going to do it half assed. And that, I think, sort of ties in to that whole thing. And but okay, there's also another aspect that I haven't told you about of my childhood that my on my mother's side, and it turns out I found out later on both of my parents' sides, there's this weird supernatural stuff that went on
Go
that
on.
that like my a lot of the stories that my grandmother would tell us were about her encounters with ghosts
Hmm.
that she had had when she was a kid. And but that she wasn't the only one. It continued in her family. And like when we would get together, my mom's side of the family, they had this house in Charlotte, North Carolina that was this old house on this property that where I think there had been Civil War battles there or something. But we would all get together there, like my aunts and uncles and my cousins and everybody, and we would have these huge dinners, and the grown-ups would be drinking. And then after dinner, they would get out a Ouija board and conjure up connections with something, which, like, I'm a really logical person, but I grew up with that. So, like, that was just normal and that was real. And I, it, I would, things would happen in that house. Like, I think that they were opening doors to something that, like, most people don't see.
Hmm.
And things would happen in that house. I would see things, hear things. I'm not the only one. It was like terrifying because they would all be drunk and they'd be like doing this. It's like a party game. And then they'd be like, okay, kids, go to bed. And they would be still down there doing it. And we'd be like going upstairs in the dark in their creepy house and just being like, and then, of course, like we'd be jumping on the beds and then the lamp would just turn itself off.
Hmm.
And we'd all just be like, ah, you know. um, but anyway, let's see, where was I going with this? I think that also influenced the way I think in a way, and like because I was scared a lot of the time when I was a kid.
Yeah, of course.
um, but and this was going on, before this stuff happened when I was 8 years old. So there was already this kind of, I don't know, weird creepiness and something that made me feel different than everybody else that I knew because nobody else lived like
It's
this.
very Southern Gothic.
Yeah, yeah. And I think I felt it led me to feel like an outsider
Mm.
around most people on top. And then when this trauma happened, it made me feel even more like an outsider. Like I have experienced things that like nobody else understands. Nobody understands me. I'm a weirdo.
Yeah. Wait, do you like you believed that about yourself, or you genuinely think that you were now kind of like so different from other people that it was difficult to connect? Do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah, maybe.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was hard to connect partly because I was so different and their lives were so different from mine. Like on, meeting all these kids at school who went to church and just had these lives that seemed so simple. Like I
Yeah.
couldn't identify with it at all. And I think that sent me even more just sort of inside and
Yeah.
like
Yeah, of course.
and as a result, I found a lot of my entertainment in drawing, making art. Like I when when we were living in Atlanta, I remember somebody gave me Sculpey. Do you know what Sculpey is?
I actually think I do. I remember it from something, but I can't.
It's like this sort of clay stuff it's plastic based.
Yeah.
And it came in these little blocks, and you could make stuff out of it, and then like put it in the oven, your like a regular home oven, and bake it, and it would get hard. So it wasn't like with regular clay, you have to have a kiln, which is really hot. But you could make things at home. And I started doing that. And then, and everybody was like, "Oh, those are so great, Laura. You should like start a business and sell them." And, I was 12 years old. And I was like, "Yeah, great. I'm going to do that." And like, I was trying to sell these stupid, I would make a polar bear or a penguin or a horse and try to like get people to buy them. It's terrible. I feel pity for all the people that I was trying to get to.
Like just
buy them
adults
from me.
visiting your parents, or do you mean like
Yes,
you would
or
sit on the sidewalk?
No, my relatives or my neighbors or whoever. But like I always loved making things with my hands. Like when we were living in Atlanta and I was like probably 10 to 12. I went next door. We had these old neighbors, and the woman, Wilma Davis, she taught me how to knit, and I was so psyched. I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna learn how to make stuff." And all I ever made was a scarf, which is like the simplest thing you can possibly knit. You just go back and forth. But anyway, I love that. I was like, around the same time, I also decided I was gonna strip all the paint off of this table that we had in our bedroom. And like my parents were like, "Okay," and they set me up in the garage, and I was like, putting turpentine on this thing and scraping it off. And like, what 12-year-old wants to do that? I don't know.
I don't know. Doesn't sound like a bad thing to do.
No, it was fun. I liked it. And I took woodshop class in high school because I was like, I want to do that. Like,
Yeah.
That sounds cool. I want to make that stupid little bookshelf that, that you make in woodshop.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
What I loved about that stuff was that like they let me do I was doing the thing they wanted to, but I did it like we made a whirly gig and he had patterns that you could do for the like different birds. But I'm like, well, I want to make a parrot. So I made my own. It looks terrible. Like it's still at my parents' house somewhere. It looks it looks like a parrot, but it looks like a badly drawn parrot. But I still got to do the thing I wanted to do.
Yeah. And it's a whirly gig?
Yeah, like the wind goes through and you got the things on the side that rotate. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Am I using the word right?
Made of wood, or was there metal in there too?
No, it was made of wood. That baby is full wood.
Wow. And they still have it. That's amazing.
Well, they just haven't gotten rid of any. They're still like
they've lived in the same place forever.
Yeah. And I mean, like, my room is now like a storage place for like old litter boxes and things like that. But most of my stuff is still in there.
Yeah. Are you an artist?
I am a writer and a performer, and I work in Los Angeles. So maybe artist is not the best word, but yes, I guess I would say that if pushed. No, I know. I'm just kidding around. But like, I don't know about writing a script for a network. I don't know if you would call that art necessarily, but
well, you have to be able to write to do it. I don't know. It takes it's like applied art. What is that?
It's art. I mean, it's art. I'm being cheeky because in relation to what I would call real art, it sometimes feels a little slight, let's say. Like the difference, like let's put it this way. If you guys make an album, right? There's 4 people and a producer or, whoever else you want to add in to do that. If I want to make something, at the very least, I can write whatever I want. But if I want to actually sell it or if I actually want to make it, there's like a hierarchy of people that are going to give me notes.
Yeah, that's true.
Producers, executives, CEO, right at the very end of the thing.
Yeah. And
that's going to shape the thing into a direction that I'm like, usually like the compromise is like, all right, it's not hurting the core idea, but it's not exactly what I want to do. And at every stage, it's like, well, the core idea is still there, I guess.
There's compromises being made. You don't have full control over it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Whereas I think you have more control, I would say, writing an album.
It's still a committee, but a smaller one.
But it's like, anyone tell you what kind of bass line to write, or like if you're making
Sometimes,
really?
sometimes I'll make up a part, and like somebody will be like, no, no,
Well, okay,
no. How
but is
about
that
more like something else?
are you okay with that? Like, does it, do you know, that could be just part of the natural, like, you know, I'll write a line and my wife will be like, that sucks. And then I'll be like, all right, I can write a better line. Is it like that kind of thing? Or is it
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah. See,
Yeah.
that's different.
No.
That's okay.
And like, I think when I was younger, it would hurt my feelings more. But at this, like, the more you do it, the more you're like, yeah, yeah, whatever. It's
Right.
fine. I'll try again. I don't
Right.
care. And like, yeah, my ego has definitely gotten more and more removed from it. From it, the longer we've done it, it feels more workman-like and less like an art sort of, which is funny. But that's what happens when you make, like, when you commercialize art, is that it feels less like art, right? And because yours, like, your writing is very commercial, right? It's part of commerce. But what I wanted to say about you, at least you can write, and it comes, you know how to get it started, and it comes out of you, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people who don't write all the time, that's harder. They don't have that practice, that discipline, that just, like, if I was going to try to write something, it feels a lot harder. I don't know. And I would like to, actually. I've been thinking, Christina, who I work with at Merge, keeps telling me I need to write a book, because I'll tell her stuff about my life and she's just like, you need to write a book. And on the one hand, I'm like, nobody wants to read that. Like, nobody needs to know about my life. There's too many memoirs out there that are just like, why should anybody be interested? But on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, it's kind of good to memorialize this somewhere, even if nothing happens with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's like talking to your parents. You want to archive, you want to get it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And like, speaking of my parents, my dad is from, I don't know if you've ever heard of this place. He's from Hatteras, North Carolina. He's like, there's this, on that outer banks of North Carolina, it's like this little strip of sand that is sort of outside of the main coastline of North Carolina. And for some reason, people settled out there, even though it was just a little strip of sand. And his family is from there. And he doesn't know how long his family's been there. I like to joke that we're descended from pirates. But like, when he was a kid, there was no road, there was no bridge. They were just out there in the ocean, on this strip of sand, taking care of themselves. And they had boats. They could like go back and forth with boats. And like, a lot of times people would actually catch a ride on the mailboat to, like, if they needed to go to the mainland to go to the doctor or something like that. But like, his childhood is insane. The stories he tells about what they did for fun, it always involves like some rowboat that they found that was sunk, and like they dragged it out and they painted it with tar, and then they took it out and they only had one oar, and they would go out and they'd put like part of a chicken on a hook and catch a shark, and then the shark would drag them down.
What?
Like, just crazy stuff. Like, the shark stories alone are insane. And like, eventually they had guns, and they would like have sharks drag them around until they were exhausted, and then like they'd row them up onto the beach and then pull the shark out of the water and shoot them. Like, just, it's like, what? That's so stupid. I can't believe he's alive.
Oh. Wait, sorry. They would, like, the shark, like, they would like somehow get the shark, like, I'm imagining like in a cartoon, like you like a giant fish, like you like put something around it and it's like pulling like a sled dog.
No, like, yeah, well, sort of, but like, basically they'd put some meat on a hook, on a big hook, and go row to where they knew sharks were, and the shark would eat it, and then the hook would be inside of its mouth, and
then it would just pull,
hooked, and then it would just swim and drag them around. There's so many crazy stories. I there's much more complicated ones that I probably shouldn't get into. But like his stories are awesome. Awesome. And honestly, I would love to make a podcast of just his stories, or like go and interview other old people in Hatteras about their childhoods. Like my grandmother, she talked about how when she was young, they would like there's sort of a known thing that down there people would kind of deliberately do things with lights on the shore to mislead boats so that they would run aground and like, crash. And because then they would have those resources, the people who lived on the island. But so there's all these houses on the island that are built from wood that was salvaged from these boats. But like my grandmother talks about how excited they would be when like sometimes stuff would just wash up. Like she said, she remembered giant bunches of bananas. Like, how I don't know if you know this, but like when bananas grow, there's giant bunches, and they would somehow fall off of a boat, or a boat would sink somewhere, and these bananas would wash up on the island, and they would just be like, yeah, happy days, we got some bananas, or yeah, like containers would fall off of container ships and wash up, and
they would just like salvage.
Yes, exactly. They were scavengers. It's just like, I don't know, such a different way of life.
Yeah. I mean, how big is Hatteras? Like how many like families live there?
I mean, back then, like when my dad was a kid, I don't know exactly. I don't know how big the village was. It's a small place. There were maybe 100 people there.
Oh, yeah, that's tiny.
Yeah.
I thought I grew up in a small place, and it's like 80,000 people.
Oh, no. Not like that. It's a small place. It's such a small strip of land. It's hard to, not that many people can live there. A bunch of tourists go there now, but like back then, when if you think about like you had to grow everything or catch fish
or mislead a ship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, your dad had to grow up then like pretty fearless. That all of that sounds like it builds a strong person.
Yes, but also just like everybody, that's what they did, and they just didn't. I think it didn't even occur to him. He talks about how there was this one marina where all the fishermen would come in the evening and clean their fish and throw the scraps into the water, and so in the evening, this little marina would be full of sharks because they would all swim in there and just eat all this chum that was being thrown in there. But, during the day, that's where the kids would swim. They would just jump in there and swim all day long. And it never occurred to them like, oh, there could be sharks coming around to check out. And they were all fine. They were always fine. Nobody ever got bit. But like the way he talks about the evenings when he was like, there were so many sharks in there, you could probably have walked across the marina on their backs, But I don't know. Yeah,
Laura, your dad killed sharks. I'm afraid if like I get the wrong food at a restaurant to like say something to the server. Okay. It is when I he must be such a because you said he was like an ass kicker before, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going into like these different places, I'm just like, oh yeah, that makes sense now. Like a guy that we just played with sharks and sometimes I killed them or whatever. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. I mean, their relationship with nature was totally different than how we think about it now too. I don't know. Like there was so much waste. I mean, obviously, there was no reason to kill those sharks. But also, there were a lot of fish that now we eat that they thought was garbage. Like tuna. They didn't eat tuna. They would just throw the tuna to the sharks. The bycatch, they were like, tuna, gross. It doesn't have scales. And so we don't eat that. Just weird stuff like that. Or where you're like, how much tuna was just wasted?
I mean, what was it, the 1950s?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. He was born in 1945.
Okay.
1945, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So this is 1950s North
Yeah.
Carolina. Had a very small town.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
Very
this
small town.
because I was thinking, I'm like, okay, it's if it was like the Depression or something like that, he's too old. Like that would have been made him way too old.
No, that would have been his parents.
Yeah. I guess you could have had an old dad. I've talked to people here with old dads, but that doesn't.
I mean, he's old. He's 80 now.
Right. But I'm saying, like, you know, there are people who, like, I one of my recent guests, I think their dad was, like, in his 60s or something when he was a kid or something like that. But I guess the question is, like, did that kind of strength rub off on you? Like, do you think you were, like, when you were younger, like, you grew up kind of, like, confident, strong?
I think so. Yes, in a way. Not socially. I was not confident socially at all. But physically, I was like, I wanted to go out and climb trees and catch animals. I was always trying to catch animals, like frogs. I did bad things to frogs.
Oh.
It's terrible. I have this horrible memory when I was like, again, I was like probably 5 or 6 years old. I caught a frog and I was like, I wanted to see inside of its mouth, you know? And so I was like, ah. I think I killed it just by prying its mouth open. But also I don't know. So in a weird way, I think I did some things similar to my dad without even thinking about that before. But to frogs, not sharks. Mm-hmm. One time, when we were living in Arkansas, there was this like plague of frogs. There were so many frogs in our backyard, and I had a garbage can, like a metal garbage can, old school metal garbage can, and I just started putting frogs in it until it was full.
What?
I'm sure the ones at the bottom suffocated.
You had an Oscar the Grouch type garbage can just filled with frogs.
Yes. Toads. Toads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But was that normal? You said there was a plague of frogs. Was that like everyone had to deal with there being just like...
I don't know. I don't remember hearing from anybody else in the neighborhood they had too many frogs, but I wasn't talking to anybody else in the neighborhood. We were just like, I don't know, living in our weird, scary house, and there was some project where they were trying to make some big ravine that was behind our house more, I don't know, to improve the drainage or keep it from washing away or something, and they had like lined it in cement. And I think somehow that made all the animals and stuff that used to live in there come out into our yard and other people's yards that were along the edge of it. We also had a problem with a whole lot of copperheads, like snakes, coming. And like, it was in the fall and the thing with the snakes happened. And we had, raked up leaf piles and they were just all full of snakes, a few days later. That house was like, it was like the Amityville Horror, I swear. So much bad shit was going down. And I count the plague of frogs in that.
Yeah.
It makes me think of Magnolia when all the frogs were falling from the sky.
Yeah. That is a lot. And you're 8 at this time, right? That seems like all of this together, including the guy, the threatener,
Yeah.
it all seems like a lot to deal with.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
For anyone, for an adult, let alone an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
Like just we have like spiders in our yard over here. And I am, we don't like nature. We're not nature people, but like there's spiders and there's like, I don't know. I went to go cook something the other day and I grabbed my apron and on the other side was like a giant noble false widow. And they're like,
what?
A noble false widow. They're like,
what is that?
It's
a noble false widow.
They're like about this, maybe like a size of a $50, or they can be. This one was,
including the legs.
Yeah, it was pretty big. It's got like a little skull on its. They're venomous but not poisonous, so it'll hurt if they bite you, but it won't. But I freaked out. It felt like arachnophobia to me. Like I don't like any of these things.
No.
So like. I'm like constantly scared to go in our own yard. Whereas you had 8 years old, you had copperheads, which are poisonous snakes, correct?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
right? It's not a good thing for them to bite you.
No, it's very bad. No, it's very bad.
Yeah, this seems like a lot to deal. It seems like not, outside of like a traumatic event, it seems like the possibility of being hurt is pretty present, period.
Yes, definitely. I mean, I feel like there was, now this may just be because this is my life. I feel like at that time, like in the 1970s, life was just more dangerous. There was more like we lived in this old house where, there were gas leaks all the time and like,
What?
Yeah. And people were not good about like getting things professionally repaired. But maybe that was just my parents.
Hold on. Sorry. So there's gas, and what happens? Like there's a gas leak and you guys are just like nonchalantly like, oh, hey, we should go outside until this gets fixed?
No.
Or?
I mean, they would call somebody and yes, we would go outside. Like there was one time there was a gas leak and it was bad. And my mom was like, we need to get out of the house. And so we went outside the house and sat in the car, which was right next to the house. It smelled like gas out there too. And we just sat there in the car until like somebody showed up. I can't remember, because remember also there were no cell phones. So I guess she had to call somebody before she came out of the house.
Yeah.
But, if she had lit a cigarette.
Yeah.
It would have been bad news.
Or anything, literally anything that sparked something. Like turning on a light.
Would turning on the car do anything?
Yep. Well, if there were gas fumes around, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Like I guess this is what I'm curious about is that like I have and from a young age, I've had a very clear understanding of the possibility of my own death. Right. But it has made me a fearful person.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I'm curious, it doesn't seem like it seems like maybe it had the opposite effect on you.
Well, it's a weird mix. Like, I think that I try to anticipate anything that could go wrong because of my exposure to bad possibilities.
Familiar.
And I don't know, having a kid was hard. Like, she's 20 now, and like having a kid and having to worry about somebody else is harder than just worrying about me. But like, I'm always looking at like, okay, what could go wrong here? And how do I prevent that?
Yeah.
Like, my response to all of this was, how can I control this?
Yeah.
So I am a controlling person as well as being an overly direct person. Like, I'm always trying to like micromanage everything because I don't want anything to go wrong.
Yeah. How do you think the controlling stuff works creatively? Are you able to let go when you're like working with other people?
When I'm working with other people, it's harder than if I'm doing something by myself. Like, working with other people, I feel more like, I don't know, less free. But I think being so controlling has served me well in a lot of ways. Like, starting Merge Records and also the band, like, there's a lot of, I found myself like winding up doing a lot of the sort of businessy stuff because I wanted to make sure it was done right. And like it's, that part doesn't feel creative at all, but it wouldn't have worked without that, like I was the tour manager most of the time, and like until we started hiring a tour manager, and like I would go and settle with the promoter at the end of the night and collect the money and like make sure it was safe. Like, we were carrying cash around back in the 90s, large amounts of cash. And like, I would have to like figure out how to like carry it, keep it safe. And then like, eventually sometimes we'd have to go to a bank and make deposits and like try to get, make a deposit and have the money put in our bank in North Carolina at a time when this wasn't very normal. And like, there's something about like 4 scrappy punk rockers walking into a bank with $20,000 in cash that the people were just like very suspicious. You had to like show a lot of ID and to fill out a lot of forms because they were like, this is, I'm sure they were in the back room, like trying to find out, like
look through police logs to see if $20,000 was stolen from some other bank.
Yeah.
By like 4 people with tattoos.
Actually, none of us had tattoos. I think none of us have tattoos.
Do you have to like show them like a book of like tour posters? Like, look, no, look,
No.
look, here we played with Yo La Tango. You know them, right?
They didn't know anything. Nobody knew anything. It was so underground back then.
Do you like that part of it, or is it just like out of
I
necessity?
think I like it in a way because it's like it's a way of sort of tidying things up and wrapping it up and putting it away. But like though I've been doing it for 36 years now. Like we started the band and the label 36 years ago, and it has gotten to the point where I'm like, oh, it never ends.
Mm-hmm.
There's no end to this. It's not. There's no tidying. It's not done. It's never done, and I don't like that so much anymore. I don't have like I get satisfaction from completing things, and it's you complete small projects and that's good, but like sometimes the overarching thing just feels so it's starting to wear me down.
Like just what part of it is wearing? Just the fact that it is, and that like the process of
the fact that it's endless and there's so much more of it because as we've gone along things have just gotten bigger and bigger, and I feel like I don't have time anymore to make art, to do like the things that got me into this in the first place. Like starting a record label, I didn't think it was gonna be something that I did for 36 years. I thought we would do it for like 6 months and it would be over. But the part that seemed fun to me was like we were gonna put out a 7-inch record and we were gonna design the sleeve and have it printed, and then we were gonna manufacture the records, but then we would like put them together. Like we would like fold the paper and put this thing in there and put it in a sleeve and then put it in a box. And I liked that on a small scale, like that sort of manufacturing thing, getting together with some friends and drinking beers and putting 7 inches together.
Yeah.
That was fun. But then once you get to a certain level of success, it's not as fun anymore. It's not this thing you're doing with your friends. Or like it doesn't feel as creative. It feels more like you're shilling some stuff and you're relying on it actually selling. And then it's not art anymore. It feels less like art.
Yeah.
But it is art. It's art because it's music. But like as a record label owner, like I feel like it's harder and harder for me to feel that joy.
Yeah.
Of the art.
Well, you become farther and farther removed from the act of creation, right? Yeah. As it goes on.
Yeah.
And that was the fun part, right? Like I remember you saying that reminded me of like two things. One, getting together in 9th grade, I was like the editor of my school newspaper, and it would come printed out, and then we would all get together and we would take the pages and fold them together and then staple them. And we would all like walk around the room grabbing pages and putting them together. And the other thing was like when I was in a band, and we were at the time of cassettes mostly, and cutting out the J cards. Is that what they were called? Them and putting them in folding them up and putting them in cassettes, and then doing that stuff. That's like I remember that.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I miss the actual physical putting together stuff, but I know what you mean. But you're closer to that as opposed to like you look at a spreadsheet and you're like, well, that's not selling. I guess we have to like, I guess the publicist should do something here or there, give Stereo Gum a call or whatever it is that you have to do with like, I guess that's like a much more. Well, is there any like, again, it seems like your dad was kind of a business person.
Yeah.
Is there any satisfaction in that, in there being some kind of connection there? Or is it all just like, well, it's not making anything. I'm just making decisions.
There was for a while. There was satisfaction in that, like in when records, do well. But there's also this disappointment. Like, I can't tell you how many records we've put out that I thought were great that just nobody noticed. Or like 300 people noticed. And we still want to put out those kind of records because they're the records we love. But like, it's disappointing to the artists as well as us. Like, I hate disappointing the artists when things don't do as well as you all want them to. It's a bad feeling.
Yeah. What about identifying with it, with like either Merge or with Superchunk, or like is it just that, like, a lot of my projects, I've invested so much of my ego in them. I find it difficult to like I've been doing this show for 15 years now, 15 and a half years now. And I'm like, seeing Marin stop WTF, I'm like, I guess I could stop. I guess there's like still like a bunch of people I really want to talk to. I guess I could, but I've invested so much of my ego in this that I feel like I identify with it. Like, is it? I'm curious, Sarah. I don't even know how to put this question together. I'm just curious, like, at what point do you start divorcing your ego from these things that you've been a part of for 36 years?
Right.
Was it like having a kid? Was it doing other artistic things? Like, or is it still difficult? Was it like maybe like when you stopped touring that you started to kind of like be able to detach your ego?
Well, I mean, when I stopped touring, I should have done it 10 years earlier than I did. It took me 10 years to be like, okay, I really got to stop. I had to think about it for that long and sort of emotionally detach myself over that time period.
Yeah.
Because like, yeah, it was really hard. And I also, and this is my ego totally, I really thought like, oh my God, if I leave the band, they're going to break up or people aren't going to like the band anymore because I'm not going to be there. And I didn't want to take that away from people. I didn't want to take it away from my fellow band members. I didn't want to take it away from the fans. Like, it felt like I was being selfish to think about not being in the band anymore. And also, there's this thing, you probably know because you've been in a band, there's this thing about performing in front of people and getting positive feedback that is so addictive. It's hard to think about giving that up, too, because that's an amazing feeling. And there's this weird energy that happens that I not to sound too woo-woo or whatever, but like it's crazy. It's a crazy feeling. But yeah, I had to think through it for a really long time in order to get to that point where I was like, okay, like my ears just can't take it anymore. I just can't do this. And the band is not going to change. They're not going to get quieter. There's nothing I can say that is going to make them play a different way. We're a loud punk rock band. It's just what it is. And it was hard, but then it turned out everything is fine. Like, they kept going. And I guess it's different than your podcast because it's more, it can't go on without you, right? Like,
yeah, but like, I think there would be a difference. Like, say if you were just like done with the band, I think there's a difference between like, well, I'm not playing live, but you're still composing, you are still recording, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's something, one of the reasons why I love Superchunk so much is that like there is a distinct, everyone has a very distinct style, I think, that comes together in a way that like there are a lot of other bands, I won't be rude, but like there's a lot of other bands where I'm just like, well, this is like one person kind of leading everyone.
Right.
Versus you guys. And I'm curious if it's different. I mean, we don't have to talk about it, but like I'm curious if it's different with John leaving. But like up until recently, like the four of you together had very distinct styles that came together to form the band. And I think that's something specific where like I don't think that's like an ill-conceived concern of yours to have, where like you're like, I don't know what they would be like without me.
Having John leave, I mean, it's definitely different because we had been playing together for so long. I mean, my experience of it anyway, like he and I had been playing together so long as a rhythm section and like I really have never been in other bands hardly at all. And so Chuck Garrison was our drummer before John, but that changed, early on, like after a year or two of Superchunk. But like I've been playing with John for so long, I feel like I knew exactly what he was going to do, and he would also do this thing, and I don't know if it was for me or for everybody in the band or just for himself, where like he would throw in these little like extra beats or whatever, and I would be like, oh, he's telling me that we're halfway through this this 8-part section, and we have 4 more to go. Like, he's amazing. He's amazing. But like, I don't know. I fit with him really well because we had played together so long. And so Laura King is great, but it's really different. And like, I had to, playing with her is just different. And like, it wasn't hard, but it made me realize like, oh yeah, John does these things and not all drummers do that. You know, she's doing her thing and she's not thinking about me. Like, she's just playing the song. Yeah, it's different. And it was hard for him too, I think, to make the decision.
Yeah, I'm sure. I want to just go back. We're right at the end. I just kind of want to go back for a second. Like, when do you think you actually started to decide for yourself what you wanted to do with your life?
I never decided what I wanted to do with my life.
Interesting.
I think that when I went to college, I was studying anthropology and like I was majoring in anthropology and minoring in geology because it was just what I thought was interesting. And I didn't really think like, I didn't know what I was going to do with that. I mean, as an undergraduate, but like while I was in college, I started working at this pizza place and I met Mac and he asked me to play bass and I had never played an instrument. I didn't want to play an instrument. He talked me into it. And like, and I would go see bands all the time. I was totally interested in music and punk rock and like, you know, just watching bands play. But it didn't occur to me like that I wanted to do it. And so, you know, Mac talked me into being in the band. And then like, as I did it for a while, I got into it and enjoyed it. But it's sort of like I just fell into it. You know, it wasn't like I didn't think I was making a life choice.
Huh.
And then it just turned out to be something that I kept doing because I was good at making it happen. And same with the label. Like I really didn't think we were going to do it for so long. And I mean, I think a lot of people's lives go that way, right? Where like you just take an opportunity and it becomes what you end up being or what you end up doing as a career. Not so much that you like at some point in your life made a choice that or made a decision in advance, like, I want to be an architect. I mean, as somebody who's an architect obviously had to decide to be an architect. Because you have to study it. But I don't know. Yeah, it just kind of happened.
Well, what convinced you? You said like he talked you into it. What was it where you're just like, yeah, sure, why not?
He's very persuasive.
Is his dad a lawyer or something like that?
Yes, his dad's a lawyer. But like, I hated it. Like at first I really hated it because I was really shy. I was super shy. I had I had never played an instrument. You know, we had a piano in our house when I was growing up, but like we would just mess around with it. I never had any lessons or anything. But like, I hated it. I was shy. And he almost right away wanted to play shows at parties and stuff like that. And there would be people watching and I was just horrified because I knew I was going to mess up and it felt really embarrassing and I just wanted to crawl in a hole. But then eventually I got better at it and I started to like it. But like why did I stick with it? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, something appealed to you.
There must have been something about it. I mean, maybe because I went to see bands all the time and I thought they were, you know, all these people that I was seeing were cool and I wanted in some way to be more like them, maybe. I mean, who doesn't want to be Kim Gordon?
Sure. Yeah. Like, what do you think I mean, I don't know how you answer this, but I'll ask it anyway. What do you think would have happened if he hadn't convinced you? Like, what would you have done? Would you have gone on to do anthropology? Is that what you said?
Actually, I minored in geology and I loved the geology part of it so much. I think I maybe would have gone to graduate school for geology, like geomorphology specifically, but like, I don't know what you do with that other than like, I don't know, maybe get into the oil industry or like, I don't know. Become a professor? I'm not sure.
Maybe.
Like, I don't know where it would have ended up, but like the way it went is great and cool, and I'm glad I did it. It's been I've had an amazing life.
Yeah.
You know, I've gotten to with Superchunk. You know, I've gotten to travel so much, That's one of the great things about it. And meet so many awesome people everywhere, fans all over the place. And I wouldn't give that away. I wouldn't trade that for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. Did your parents want something for you?
They were pretty suspicious about me being in a band for a long time. They didn't really understand it at all. But I think eventually they were pretty pleased with how things turned out. I think they eventually grew to understand that I wasn't like, I don't know what they thought. I think they had a very 1970s, 1960s idea of what rock and roll, like a band on the road was like. Like they thought we were all doing drugs and having sex or something. I'm like, no,
Fleetwood Mac or something?
Yes, or Cactus, like these acid rock bands, like Aerosmith or something. I don't know what they thought. But I think my dad just thought I was having sex with everybody or something. I don't know. There was no sex. No sex. Straight edge.
Right.
Not straight.
You should have handed him Henry Rollins' Get in the Van and just read this. This will explain exactly what it is.
It's just hard living. Sleeping on floors.
Yeah.
Sleeping on floors and sweating every night on stage.
Yeah, but they didn't have they didn't want something for you. My parents were always vaguely were you should be a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. They never had an occupation in mind for you.
I don't think so, because they didn't have occupations in mind for themselves. I think that they also didn't go to college, and I was the first one to, yeah, well, aside from my older sister, my generation was the first one to go to college in my family. So my parents just had kind of jobs they fell into that weren't necessarily great. And so I think it wasn't even within their imagination to say oh, you should be a doctor. They couldn't tell me I needed to be a doctor when they had they hadn't really gotten their shit together ever.
Yeah.
They never tried to tell me what I should do as a career that I can think of.
Okay. Well, then last question. Was there a point where you said you kind of fell into it, but did you ever have a moment where you're well, this is what I want to do? Do you know what I mean? Where you actually chose, where you're yeah, we're doing this. I don't know how far in, 2 albums in, was it whatever?
I think it was in 1992. Mac and I broke up. We had been going out as a couple, and we broke up, and I made the choice that you and I are breaking up, but I feel like these things that we've started, the band and the record label, are bigger than us, and we need to keep doing it. I want to keep doing this, because that would have been if I wanted to not do it anymore, that would have been the time to be okay, done, I'm out. But I felt it felt important, and it felt good being a part of it. It felt good being giving that to people.
Laura, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, a genuine delight talking to you. I'm so glad.
Aw. Well, thank you.
And we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye, oh, bye.